The alarm started without warning. A deep, vibrating sound shook the metal walls of the space station, and every worker froze for one long, confused moment. No one expected danger today. It was supposed to be a calm day, a simple cargo session, nothing more. But the alarm said something else. Something was wrong, and it was getting worse by the second. Rylan, one of the few humans working on the station, was in the middle of checking supply crates when the lights turned red. His heartbeat jumped. Red lights were never good. Red lights meant trouble. He looked up and saw aliens running through the corridor, their blue and silver skin flashing under the emergency lights. Their eyes were wide, their movements sharp and panicked. Rylan had been through enough strange events in space to know this was not a drill. A loud metallic crash echoed from the far corridor. Several crates shook on the floor. Someone screamed. Not a normal scream, a terrified scream. Rylan stepped closer but kept a safe distance. He knew better than to rush blindly toward danger. Then he heard something else, a deep rumbling growl that did not sound like any machine. It was alive and angry and close. The aliens at the far end of the corridor pushed back against the wall, fear written on their faces. Rylan saw one of them, an older alien worker, clutching the side of his arm as if he had been hit. Another alien shouted something in their own language, voice shaking. When the creature appeared, Rylan finally understood the fear. It was a beast cub, young but massive, twice the size of a human. Its scales glowed with shifting colors, purple, blue, and red, like a living storm. 4 bright eyes blinked at once, burning with wild panic. Its chest rose and fell in fast, heavy breaths. Its tail hit the crates behind it, smashing them like thin wood. Everyone knew beast cubs were not normally dangerous. Young ones were usually shy, curious, even playful. But this one looked nothing like that. This one was terrified. And a terrified creature of this size could destroy half the station without meaning to. The beast cub roared, a sharp sound that made everyone flinch. Sparks burst from a damaged control panel nearby, and the creature responded with another roar, louder and angrier. The aliens retreated farther. None dared step forward. Rylan stayed still, watching the creature carefully. His mind worked fast. Something was wrong with it, not just fear. Pain, maybe, confusion. It was lost, separated from whoever brought it here. Another crash shook the corridor. The beast cub lowered its head, baring sharp teeth. One alien guard raised his weapon, hands trembling. Rylan saw his intention. If the beast cub attacked, they would fire. They didn't want to, but fear controlled the moment. Rylan stepped forward without fully thinking. He did not want the creature hurt, and the creature did not deserve to die just because it was scared. The aliens shouted at him to stop, but he kept moving, slow and calm. He remembered something from his training years ago. He remembered that beast cubs reacted strongly to sense. They could be guided by simple signals if someone stayed calm enough. But he also remembered another thing. Fear from the people around them made the beast cub worse. Rylan gently lifted one hand in the air, not threatening, not aggressive. Just open, calm. The beast cub stared at him with all 4 eyes. Its breath was fast, but it did not charge. Rylan spoke in a low voice. Not that the creature understood words, but tone mattered. Soft sound mattered. It always mattered with frightened animals. The aliens behind him did not move. They barely breathed. Another spark fell from a damaged cable above, and the beast cub tensed again. Rylan froze. If he moved too quickly now, it might attack him, or run, or destroy everything in panic. He slowly reached into his pocket and felt something small, something simple, something he carried for months, dog treats. He rarely used them, but he kept them for a tiny station dog that followed him sometimes. Now they might save his life, or end it. He slowly pulled a single treat out and held it between his fingers. Then he crouched slightly, making himself appear smaller, less threatening. The beast cub sniffed the air. Its growl stopped for just a moment. Rylan saw his chance. A small chance, but a chance. He tossed the treat lightly onto the floor, only a short distance. The beast cub's eyes followed it. Its nose twitched. It stepped forward, one heavy, echoing step, toward the small brown treat. The aliens behind Rylan gasped. One whispered, shocked, that no one had ever tried using food to calm such a creature. But Rylan was not listening. His attention stayed fixed on the beast cub. It sniffed the treat, hesitated, then gently picked it up with surprising softness. It chewed once, twice. The glowing lights in its scales dimmed slightly. Its breathing slowed. Rylan felt a wave of hope, small but real. He tossed another treat, this time closer to himself. The beast cub approached again, still tense but less wild. Its eyes softened and the growling faded. Step by step, breath by breath, the terrifying creature was calming. The aliens watched, stunned, as the massive cub slowly responded to the simple kindness of a human and a few treats. They had expected violence, weapons, and chaos. They never expected peace. Rylan kept his movements calm, controlled. He knew the beast cub was still dangerous. One wrong move and everything could fall apart. But for now it was working. For now the creature trusted him just enough. He lifted another treat, slowly letting the beast cub see it. And for the first time since the alarms began, the creature made a soft sound. Not a growl. Not a roar, a soft, almost confused hum. Rylan's heart lifted. Maybe, just maybe, this unexpected moment could stop the danger before it grew into something far worse. The corridor felt frozen in time as the beast cub slowly chewed the second treat. Rylan did not blink for several seconds. The creature's bright eyes stayed locked on him, curious now instead of furious. Even its tail, which earlier smashed crates, now hung low in uncertain calm. Behind Rylan, the alien workers slowly relaxed their shoulders, though none dared move too loudly. They whispered to each other, confused at how fast things were changing. Moments ago, they believed the entire station could be destroyed. Now, a human with simple treats was stopping the chaos. Rylan reached into his pocket again. He still had a few treats left, but not many. He needed to think fast. If the creature calmed too much and suddenly felt trapped, it might panic again. He needed a plan, something safe for the beast cub and for everyone on the station. He tossed another treat, but this time he sent it slightly to the side. He wanted the creature to follow a direction, not just approach him. The beast cub watched the small arc of the treat as it bounced softly across the metal floor. It walked toward it, slow at first, then a little faster, curious about why it smelled so good. While the beast focused on the treat, Rylan glanced around. The corridor was still damaged. Sparks flickered overhead, lighting the area with sharp flashes. The alarms had finally stopped, but the emergency lights stayed red, warning everyone that this problem was far from solved. Two alien guards stepped closer to Rylan. One whispered, "Human, how did you do that?" Rylan kept his eyes on the beast cub. "It's just scared," he said quietly. "Fear makes everything dangerous, but this one, it's young, it doesn't want to fight." The guard looked unsure. "Young or not, it can still break us in half." "I know," Rylan said, "but if we stay calm, it will stay calm." Another rumble came from deeper inside the station. A heavy one. The beast cub paused, ears twitching. It lifted its head as if listening. Rylan felt a chill. That sound was not from the beast cub. The older alien worker stepped forward. "There was another during transport," he said with a shaky voice. "Not just the cub." Rylan slowly turned to him. "Another what?" The worker swallowed hard. "An adult, the parent." Rylan felt the air grow heavier around him. A parent beast was nothing like a cub. They were massive, highly protective, and extremely dangerous if their young were in distress. If an adult beast was somewhere in the station, then everything could become much worse. The beast cub let out a soft cry, a short, worried sound. Not aggressive, not fearful, just lonely. Rylan understood instantly. The cub was searching for its parent. If the two were separated, the adult might be ripping through the station trying to reach its child. And the cub, confused and scared, had already caused enough damage on this side. Rylan needed to calm the cub completely before the adult arrived. If both creatures panicked at the same time, the station wouldn't survive it. He crouched again and offered another treat directly from his hand this time. It was risky, very risky. If the beast cub snapped too fast, his fingers could be gone in an instant. He kept his voice soft. "It's okay, I'm not here to hurt you." The beast cub approached. Its heavy steps shook the floor lightly. It lowered its head toward Rylan's palm. Its breath was warm and slightly metallic. Its four glowing eyes softened, reflecting curiosity and something like trust. The cub took the treat gently. A small wave of relief washed through Rylan's chest. But then the metal walls vibrated again, harder this time. A deep roar echoed through the ventilation shafts, shaking dust loose from the ceiling. It was not the cub, everyone knew it instantly. The adult beast was coming, the aliens panicked, stepping back quickly. One guard raised his weapon again. Rylan spun around. "Don't shoot. If you scare the parent, it will destroy everything to protect the cub." "But what do we do?" the guard asked, voice cracking. "We can't fight that thing." Rylan thought quickly, mind racing. The cub looked toward the direction of the roar and let out another small cry. This time louder, desperate. Rylan looked at the aliens. "Open the side doors, clear the path. The cub needs to reach the parent." An alien mechanic shouted. Are you crazy? If they meet here, both will panic together. Rylan shook his head. No, they're separated, that's why they're dangerous. They're scared for each other. Bring them together and we have a chance. The workers hesitated. None trusted the idea, but none had a better plan. Finally, the older alien nodded. Open the path. Several workers rushed to the control panels, unlocking barriers and shifting crates aside. The corridor widened, giving the beast cub more space to move without feeling trapped. The cub watched the changes with cautious interest. It sniffed the air again, sensing its parent's scent growing stronger. Rylan stood beside it, keeping his movements slow. Go on, he whispered. It's okay. The cub walked forward a little, then stopped and looked back at him. Its glowing eyes blinked, showing a strange mix of fear and hope. Rylan smiled softly. I'm coming, don't worry. The cub continued down the corridor. The deeper they went, the louder the distant roars became. The aliens followed from a safe distance, whispering anxiously. The station creaked under the weight of something large moving inside the next chamber. The group reached a large loading bay, half-lit, half-damaged. Sparks burst from a broken cable hanging from the ceiling. Metal crates lay scattered everywhere as if thrown by something huge. At the far end of the bay stood the adult beast. It was enormous. Its scales glowed brighter than the cub's, pulsing with red lines of stress and fear. Its eyes, 8 of them, locked immediately onto the group. The aliens froze in terror. Rylan felt his breath catch. One wrong move could end everything. The cub stepped forward, trembling but eager. Rylan whispered, Go to your parent. The cub gave a soft cry. The adult beast roared back, shaking the entire bay. The cub took another step. Rylan prayed silently that this fragile moment would not break. The air inside the loading bay felt tight, almost too heavy to breathe. Every alien worker stood frozen near the walls, afraid to move even a finger. The adult beast towered over the crates, its massive body rising and falling with deep, angry breaths. Its glowing scales flashed brighter with every second, filling the room with red light that made the metal walls look like they were turning into fire. Rylan stayed close to the beast cub, but not too close. He did not want to startle it again. The cub made a small sound, a soft cry that echoed across the loading bay. It took a careful step toward the adult, trembling in fear but also in longing. It wanted its parent. It needed its parent, and the parent needed it just as much. The adult beast lowered its huge head and growled, not in anger but in warning. It did not understand why its cub was surrounded by aliens and a human. It did not know if the cub was safe or in danger. It only knew one thing: it would destroy anyone who threatened its child. Rylan slowly lifted his hand, showing he had no weapon. He knew the beast might not understand his words, but tone mattered, emotion mattered. We're not here to hurt you, he said softly. Your cub was scared, we helped it calm down. The adult beast's 8 glowing eyes narrowed, locked on him with a terrifying intensity. Its claws pressed into the metal floor, bending the plates beneath its weight. One wrong sound could set it off. The cub stepped forward again, and this time it did not stop. It walked straight toward its parent, its body shaking, but its eyes full of hope. The adult beast lowered its head even farther until its muzzle touched the top of the cub's head. A deep rumbling sound filled the room. Not anger, not fear, relief. The parent beast wrapped one large paw around the cub and pulled it close, checking for injuries. The cub nuzzled into the massive chest, making small sounds, almost like a child crying after being lost for too long. Rylan let out a slow breath. The aliens behind him did the same. For the first time since the alarms began, there was a sense of calm. A fragile calm, but a real one. The adult beast finally looked back at Rylan. Its eyes were still sharp, but the glow inside them had softened. It understood something now. The human had not harmed its cub, he had helped it. One alien guard whispered behind Rylan, maybe we should close the doors and lock them inside. If the adult tries to escape. Rylan raised his hand to silence him without turning around. No sudden actions. If they feel trapped, they'll strike. Give them space. The workers exchanged worried looks, but they obeyed. No one wanted to make the situation worse. The adult beast made a soft rumble and nudged its cub forward slightly. The cub looked back at Rylan with bright eyes. Not angry, not scared, curious again, maybe even grateful. But the situation was not over. The station still had damage. The creatures were still loose. And the parent beast was far too big to simply guide through narrow corridors without risk. The older alien worker approached Rylan carefully. Human, what do we do now? This creature is huge. If it stays here, the station cannot function. Rylan looked at the adult beast. We need to help them leave peacefully. That is impossible, the guard said, shaking his head. The parent is too dangerous. We can't open the doors to the outer docks. They might escape into the main hub. Then we create a safe path, Rylan said. The others stared at him as if he had suggested dragging a star out of the sky. The mechanic spoke next. A path through the station that would take hours. No, Rylan said, thinking faster. There's the cargo launch tunnel. It's wide and leads to the service bay near the landing platforms. If we open the doors there, they can exit to the natural habitat area outside the station. The aliens did not answer at first. They knew the idea made sense, but they also knew how risky it was. If the parent beast thought the path was a trap, it could smash through half the machinery before anyone could stop it. Rylan turned back to the creatures. He reached into his pocket and found only 2 dog treats left. He held one up and showed it to the cub. The small creature tilted its head, recognizing the familiar scent. Rylan placed the treat gently on the floor, then stepped back, pointing toward the wide corridor leading to the cargo tunnel. The cub watched him, then looked at the parent, then back at the treat. The adult beast leaned down and gently nudged the cub toward the treat. It understood something important. The human meant safety. The cub followed the direction Rylan indicated. A wave of shocked murmurs spread through the aliens. The giant parent beast began to walk behind the cub, towering over everything in its path but moving carefully, not aggressively. It stayed close enough to protect but far enough to avoid touching the sharp machinery around it. Rylan walked backward, slow and steady, guiding them with calm voice and controlled gestures. This way, it's safe. Come on. The group moved down the corridor, step by step. The cub walked with more confidence now, occasionally glancing back at Rylan. The parent followed with quiet strength, its scales glowing less brightly but still pulsing with alertness. As they reached the entrance of the cargo tunnel, the ground shook again, this time from machinery powering up. A large automated crane arm twitched, malfunctioning from earlier damage. Sparks shot across the tunnel. The cub panicked instantly. Its eyes flashed bright, its claws scraped the floor, and it gave a sharp cry. The parent beast reacted fast, stepping in front of the cub with a thunderous roar that shook the tunnel walls. The aliens ran for cover. Rylan raised his hands. Wait, don't run. If it hears fear, it'll get worse. Another spark burst. The parent beast roared again, louder this time. The cub cried louder too. The situation was slipping out of control again. Rylan reached for his last treat. He had only one chance left. The tunnel lights flickered as another burst of sparks flew from the damaged crane arm. The sharp, crackling sound echoed through the long metal passage and made the beast cub jump backward in fear. Its small claws scraped loudly across the floor, and it pressed against the parent beast for protection. The parent responded with a thunderous roar, its scales flaring bright red again, the glow spreading across its body like rising fire. The aliens nearby ducked behind crates. Some covered their heads. Others held their breath, afraid the adult beast would charge at anything that moved. Rylan stood in the center of the tunnel, caught between danger and hope. He felt the heavy vibration of the beast's roar shake his chest. He knew this moment could decide everything. If panic spread again, the parent beast might attack, and nothing could stop it. Rylan slowly pulled out the last dog treat from his pocket. A single treat left, one small piece of food. It felt far too fragile to solve a problem this big, but at the same time, it was the only tool he had left. He held the treat carefully between his fingers so the beast cub could see it clearly. The cub turned its head toward him, trembling. Its 4 bright eyes locked on the treat. Even in fear, it remembered the scent. It remembered the calm. Rylan knew he needed to use more than food now. He needed to use tone, movement, and trust. He lowered himself slowly to one knee, showing that he meant no harm. The adult beast watched him closely, muscles tense, ready to strike if anything felt wrong. Rylan kept his voice soft. Look here, it's okay, come on, you're safe. His words were not understood as language, but the sound of calm, steady speech mattered. The beast cub listened. It gave a tiny, shaky sound in return, something between a whimper and a question. Rylan placed the treat on the floor, but this time he did not throw it. He set it gently, then backed away slowly, keeping his movements smooth. The cub took a small step forward, trembling each time sparks flashed across the tunnel roof. The parent beast growled, but it did not stop the cub. It watched, alert, waiting to see if Rylan's guiding would keep them safe. The cub reached the treat, sniffed it, and picked it up carefully. Its glowing eyes softened. The red light in its scales faded a little. For a moment the tunnel felt less tense. But then the crane arm twitched again, not a spark this time. It moved. A sharp metal jerk made a deep clang that rang through the tunnel like a hammer strike. The parent beast roared so loudly that dust fell from the ceiling. Its claws dug into the floor. The cub cried out again, frightened by the loud noise and the sudden danger. Rylan looked around quickly. He had no treats left, no tools. Nothing but his voice and the small trust he'd built. The aliens behind him were whispering urgently. "Shut down the crane," one shouted. "It's not responding." Another yelled back. "The system's damaged." Rylan turned toward the control panel. Sparks flew from the broken wiring. The machine would not stop on its own. Someone had to get close enough to cut the power manually. But getting close meant crawling under the crane and risking being crushed or electrocuted. He looked at the beast cub. Its body pressed tightly against the parent beast's chest, shaking like a small child in a storm. The parent growled deeper, its whole body glowing with fear and anger. Rylan made a choice. He stepped toward the crane. The aliens gasped. One tried to stop him. "Human, you'll die if you go there." Rylan didn't stop walking. "If we don't stop it, everyone dies." He reached the side of the crane. Sparks jumped dangerously close to his face. The heat from the broken wiring made his skin prickle and sweat instantly. He grabbed a metal bar lying on the floor and used it to push some crates aside, clearing a space so he could reach the base of the malfunctioning arm. The beast cub watched him with wide, glowing eyes, unsure what he was doing. The parent beast growled, confused, ready to defend if he threatened the cub. Rylan lifted the bar and smashed it down on a chain link connected to the crane's motor. The metal clanged loudly. The beast roared in response, thinking the noise was an attack. Rylan froze instantly. The adult beast took 2 heavy steps forward. The entire tunnel shook. The aliens screamed and ran farther back. Rylan raised both hands, dropping the metal bar. The new alarm echoed through the station like a cold wave. It was different from the earlier warning bells. This one was deep and slow, a sound that signaled something unusual, something the workers did not expect at all. The aliens following Rylan looked around nervously. The red lights flashed again, painting the walls with an uneasy glow. Rylan felt his stomach tighten. The alarm was not for fire, not for breach, and not for creature release. This tone was for system failure. Something important had shut down somewhere in the station. The beast cub paused at the sound, pressing once more against its parent. The adult beast lifted its head and sniffed the air as if sensing a new danger. Its scales flickered with a pale purple light, the color of concern rather than anger. Rylan knew the creatures were reacting to the sudden change just as much as the aliens were. The older alien worker approached Rylan quickly. "Human, something is wrong with the power grid. The alarms say a main generator dropped offline." Rylan frowned. "That shouldn't happen, not without a reason." The worker nodded nervously. "The generator is near the habitat docks, the same place you are guiding the creatures." Rylan looked back at the parent beast and the cub. They were already stressed from their separation and the loud machinery. If they reached the habitat area and found darkness or sudden failure, they might panic again. And this time, no treats were left to help. "We need the lights stable," Rylan said. "If the habitat area is dark, the cub will get scared again. The parent will attack to protect it." The aliens exchanged worried looks. "So what do we do?" Rylan glanced around the tunnel. The path forward was still clear. That was good. But the generator issue had to be handled quickly. If the main power stayed down, the entire habitat door system might lock or malfunction. He made a decision. "I'll guide them to the next chamber. You fix the generator." The alien guard shook his head. "We don't have enough workers, and the generator area is dangerous when it fails. Sparks, heat, pressure." Rylan interrupted gently. "Then send your best engineer and tell him to hurry. I'll keep the creatures calm until the lights return." The aliens hesitated, then nodded. One of them ran back down the tunnel to gather a repair team. Rylan turned to the cub and parent beast. Their eyes watched him, trusting him now more than before. He walked forward and the cub followed close behind. The adult beast stepped heavily but calmly. Its footsteps echoed like slow thunder through the long metallic tunnel. The air vibrated with each step, but not in fear, only power. They reached the next chamber, a wide circular space used for sorting large cargo before launch. The room was dim but still lit. Suspended walkways crossed overhead and several large doors lined the walls, each marked with glowing blue symbols. Rylan paused, checking the lights. They flickered lightly but remained on. Good, at least for now. The cub sniffed around with curiosity, even though its steps were cautious. The parent beast stayed right behind, scanning every corner, protecting with silent strength. Rylan moved slowly, careful not to alarm either creature. The older alien worker arrived behind him again. "We sent a team," he said quietly. "But they say the generator room has collapsed on one side. They must remove debris before reaching the controls." Rylan's heart sank. That would take time, too much time. The cub suddenly looked up as the lights dimmed again. A thin hum passed through the chamber. The parent beast's scales flashed bright red for a split second. Rylan raised both hands quickly. "Easy, it's okay, stay calm," he whispered. The cub stepped close to the parent again, making a small, scared sound. The parent growled, low but tense. They were on the edge of panic again. Rylan stepped between them and the flashing lights, keeping his voice steady. "Stay with me, you're safe, just a little longer." It worked for a moment. The red glow in the parent beast's scales faded back to purple. But the lights dimmed again, this time longer, as if struggling to stay alive. Rylan felt every second slip away like sand. If the lights went out completely, the cub would scream, the parent would roar, and the chamber could easily collapse under their strength. He turned to the alien worker. "Is there any way to power this room separately?" The alien hesitated. "There might be an emergency battery panel behind the wall, but getting to it requires moving through the upper walkway." Rylan looked up at the high metal bridge overhead. It was narrow, old, and probably not safe. But the emergency battery might be the only way to keep the chamber lit until the generator was repaired. Rylan nodded. "I'll go." The alien stared at him in shock. "Human, the walkway is unstable. You could fall." "I've done worse today," Rylan said with a small, tired smile. "Just keep the creatures calm." He climbed the ladder to the upper walkway. The metal rails creaked under his weight. The walkway swayed slightly with each step. Below him, the parent beast stared up, watching every movement closely. Rylan kept his steps slow so he would not alarm the massive creature. The emergency panel sat inside a metal box near the far corner of the walkway. Rylan moved toward it carefully. His hands shook slightly from fear, but he forced himself to focus. He unlatched the box, exposed the wires inside, and saw the problem. The connector had snapped. The panel wasn't supplying backup power at all. He needed to bridge the wires manually. He looked around for something to use. There was nothing on the walkway except bolts and dust. His pockets were empty except for a small metal tool he kept for crate work. It would have to do. He held the wires together with one hand and used the metal tool to press them into place. A spark jumped, the lights flickered sharply. Rylan almost lost his grip, but he kept holding, forcing the connection to stay stable. The lights brightened. The cub made a happy sound below. The parent beast's scales shifted to a calm blue. The alien sighed in relief. But then the walkway shook, not from the beast, from the failing generator. The entire station rumbled with a deep vibration that threw dust from the ceiling. Rylan stumbled and grabbed the railing to keep from falling. A huge crack sounded behind him. The walkway jerked downward on one side. The cub cried out in fear. The parent beast roared loudly, thinking Rylan was in danger. Rylan held the wires tight. If he let go, the room would go dark again. He needed to keep the power on, but he also needed to survive the shaking walkway. The metal beneath him groaned as another vibration passed through the station. He was running out of time. The walkway shook again, harder this time, and Rylan dropped to one knee to keep from falling. The metal under him groaned like it was about to collapse. He tightened his grip on the wires, feeling the sparks sting his fingers. If he let go now, the lights would go out and the beast cub would panic again. The parent beast would react, and everything he worked for would fail. Below him, the cub cried loudly. Its glowing eyes were wide with fear, and it paced rapidly under the walkway. The parent beast roared, but it wasn't angry. It was terrified for Rylan, the human who had helped its child. The walkway jerked again, dropping several inches. Dust fell in Rylan's hair. He looked at the emergency panel and realized something important. The metal tool he was using was overheating. He could feel the heat through the fabric of his glove. It was only a matter of seconds before he would have to let go. He shouted down to the aliens, "How much longer for the generator team?" The older alien worker shouted back, "They say 2 minutes, maybe less." Rylan's arms trembled. 2 minutes felt like 2 hours. The walkway creaked again, and one of the bolts popped loose with a sharp metallic snap. The cub cried again, then something unexpected happened. The parent beast stepped forward, not in fear, not in attack, but with purpose. It lowered its huge head under the walkway and pushed upward gently. The entire walkway rose a few inches, enough to stop the sudden drop. The metal groaning slowed. The aliens gasped. Rylan stared down in disbelief. The massive creature was holding the walkway steady for him. "Thank you," he whispered. The parent beast growled softly in response, a deep sound that meant understanding. Rylan tightened his grip again, feeling renewed strength. He held the wires together as firmly as he could. The lights steadied. The flicker stopped. The chamber glowed with bright, warm light. A crackling sound came from the comm panel on the wall below. The older alien worker shouted, "Human, the generator is back online." Before Rylan could respond, the station hummed deeply. The main lights across the chamber brightened. The floor panels glowed blue again, showing everything was returning to normal power. Rylan let go of the wires at last. His arms fell to his sides, aching. He took one deep breath after another. His fingers tingled from the sparks, but he didn't care. The danger had passed. The parent beast slowly lowered its head, allowing the walkway to settle back into place. Rylan carefully crawled to the ladder and climbed down, shaking slightly from exhaustion. The moment he reached the floor, the beast cub rushed toward him. It stopped just in front of him and made a soft, cheerful hum. Rylan smiled and gently patted the cub's head. Its scales felt warm and smooth, glowing with peaceful colors. "You're welcome," he said softly. "Sorry about the treats, I used them all." The cub let out a playful sound, almost like a laugh. The parent beast stepped closer. Its massive body towered over Rylan, but its eyes glowed with calm blue light. It lowered its head until its forehead almost touched Rylan's shoulder. The gesture was gentle, grateful. Rylan placed his hand on the creature's muzzle. "You're safe now, both of you." The aliens watched in stunned silence. They had never seen a human and a beast communicate like this. They had never seen a parent beast act with such softness. The worker closest to Rylan finally spoke. "Human, you saved us. You saved the creatures, you saved the station." Rylan shook his head. "They just needed understanding. Fear makes everything worse." The cub nuzzled his arm again. The parent beast made another soft sound, urging the cub to follow. It turned toward the far habitat door, which was now glowing green, signaling the exit path was ready. Rylan walked beside them as they moved forward. The habitat door slowly slid open, revealing a wide natural chamber filled with warm light, soft soil, and artificial trees designed to make alien species feel at home. A gentle breeze blew through the doorway. The cub stepped through first. It paused and looked back at Rylan, waiting. Rylan smiled. "Go on." The cub walked into the habitat. The parent beast followed closely, but before stepping inside, it turned its head to Rylan one more time. Its 8 eyes blinked slowly, a gesture of thanks. Rylan bowed his head slightly. With one graceful movement, the parent beast entered the habitat chamber. The door closed behind them with a soft hiss. Silence filled the cargo area. The aliens finally relaxed for the first time since the alarms began. Rylan let out a long breath and leaned against the wall. His body was tired, but his heart felt light. He had done something impossible, not by force. Not by strength, by calm, by trust, by kindness. The older alien worker placed a hand on Rylan's shoulder. "We will remember what you did today, the station will remember, and the beasts will too." Rylan smiled quietly. "I just wanted to help." "You did more than help," the worker said. "You changed how we see humans." Rylan looked at the habitat door where the creatures had disappeared. "They're amazing," he said softly. "They weren't monsters. They were just scared." The aliens nodded. Rylan stood up straight again. His hands still tingled from the sparks and his clothes were covered in dust, but he felt proud. He felt alive. As he walked back down the long corridor with the aliens, he heard something faint behind the habitat door, a soft hum like a grateful goodbye from the cub.